A lot to get into on this game. Grayson's grades, they're up right now at 97.3 ESPN.com. Scott, this is an interesting one because the Eagles win, but it's an ugly win. So, you get a mixed bag of grades for a team that gets a win, but not the most aesthetically pleasing win. And I'll start off with your assessment of the quarterback in this one.
Well, I got to tell you, I was disappointed. I think when you look at Carson Wentz, you have to evaluate him in two areas: the first quarter and the rest of the game. I thought the first quarter he obviously forced the ball in by his own admission, and it was obvious he was trying to put passes where he shouldn't have been. And I think he didn't really say it after the game, but you read body language in that first quarter. I felt like Wentz, for the first time this season, was actually a little confused at what he was seeing. I thought the Vikings did a good job of disguising some coverage dropbacks when he thought there was going to be pressure, and that's what led to the one interception. I thought he also, it wasn't a great throw to Brent Selleck. Probably not a good idea to throw that one to him as well. That led to an interception. After that, I thought, Wentz did a good job of managing the game, and just at that point, taking care of the ball after the first quarter and realizing that, listen, we've had 3 turnovers. If we don't turn the ball over anymore, we should win this game. And, look at what our defense was doing. And I thought at that point, Wentz really did a good job of changing a lot of plays at the line of scrimmage just to get positive plays out of them instead of turning them into negative plays. And, I had to grade him on the whole game, which included the first quarter. But beyond the first quarter, I thought he did really well.
Well, Peterson mentioned, he said he managed the game well. And I think that's like Wentz is in this position where he is a rookie still. We forget that sometimes. But he is going to be more game manager than he is guy who wins game for you, right? I mean, I think we lose focus of that sometimes because of really his skills are more than game manager, but needs to be game manager more frequently than the guy where we lean on you.
Yeah, especially when the defense is doing what it did. When the defense can make a team one-dimensional, look, at that point, just don't go give him the ball in the red zone twice and expect your defense to turn him away with 0 points because he's lucky that happened. But when Wentz can manage the game and Donnie Jones can flip the field, and that's your worst case on a possession, you're putting your defense in a really good opportunity to make something happen. And this defense is able to do that. And in that case, I think, you just ask Wentz to just make good decisions. When there's a bad play called based on what he sees from the defense, because he's really bright, make the right call and change the play so you get 2 or 3 yards in the positive direction, line back up and see what you can do on the next play. When Wentz can do that, I think everything's good. A little concerning that there were several botched snaps, and I think that was more on Wentz than on Kelsey, but it was hard to tell. And that's one area, too, that he acknowledged after the game. He's got to get better at making sure he just gets the ball before he tries to do something with it.
Scott Grayson's got Grayson's grades. Last week we were low on the report card for Vitae. How about his rebound? I mean, we didn't hear his name much.
No, you heard it right at the beginning of the game when he got a little antsy and jumped off the line of scrimmage on a false start. After that, you didn't really notice him. And for an offensive lineman, that's the best case scenario because you're not doing bad things. I mean, I thought he did a good job of – look, Wentz, I thought all around had a pretty good pocket to throw out of, and that's a credit to the entire offensive line, not just Vitae. And, they had some decent holes to run through. They were actually running to his side occasionally, which shows they had a little more confidence in him to get some blocks. And it was definitely what Vitae needed. He needed a game like that. And Doug Peterson really needed him to have a game like that because he has stood squarely in his corner throughout this and been behind him to say, he's my guy, I'm going with him. And, I thought all in all, Vitae did a pretty good job.
Scott, you gave out a bunch of A's in this game, but last week, we're looking at guys who struggled last week, and I want to bring them all back because a lot of these guys that we're talking about are big reasons why they won this week. Jim Schwartz leading that defense. A lot of talk this week about lowest blitz percentage in the NFL. Sal Powell was on Friday, and, in that Wednesday press conference, he kind of challenged Doug Peterson, and we kind of found out that for the first time, Peterson sat in on the defensive meetings this week. He sat down with Jim Schwartz, and you wonder if there was a little nudge from Peterson to say, hey, we need to get a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they were. But I also, it's funny, I was sitting next to John McMullen in the press box, and we were talking throughout the game. But before the game, I said to him, look, I think they need to get back there, and they've just got to hit Bradford early and often. And if they do that early, as we've seen from Sam's time in Philadelphia, it's a way to get him knocked off his game. And it worked. I mean, they got to him early. They got to him often. They forced turnovers. They forced fumbles. They made Bradford look silly. And I don't know if if Peterson being in the meeting room with Schwartz or having any input on that with blitz calls occasionally was an effect or changed Schwartz's game plan at all in that regard. But look, when Schwartz did call blitzes, they were at great times. They had positive results. And look, they knew they had a quarterback that they were familiar with. Everybody made a big deal about how, hey, Bradford knows this offense. They know, he has an idea and can tell the Vikings what they're going to do. But these guys knew Sam, and they knew how to rattle him, and that was obvious on Sunday. I thought that Schwartz had a great game plan, and the question will be whether or not they occasionally stick in those blitzes every now and then at big times in games going forward. They're going to have a rookie quarterback next week. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to throw some blitzes his way.
Hey, Jordan Hicks, he was a playmaker last year. It seemed like he was getting a pick or a forced fumble or recovering a fumble or a sack. He was doing something. This was the first game that you can say, I remember plays that stood out, and Jordan Hicks was on the other, was part of that play. I thought this was, and you wonder, Scott, if this is him finally feeling comfortable as a 4-3 middle backer. We forget last year he was a 3-4 inside guy, so he's making a little transition where a lot of these other guys who went from 3-4 to 4-3, they went from an unnatural position to a natural position. Hicks was more of a natural 3-4 inside guy who's now making the transition to a more unnatural 4-3 middle guy.
Yeah, and I've heard different media people speculating that, hey, you should move Hicks outside. Middle doesn't seem to be his spot, but I think you nailed it. I think he's definitely more comfortable. You're starting to see that. What are we, 6 games in now? He's got plenty more experience than he did, a month and a half ago in this defense, let alone being in the middle by himself, like you said. I think Hicks definitely looked a lot more comfortable. His timing was much better yesterday. He was right on a play when it was happening. Instead, it seems like the last few weeks he's been one step behind of where he needed to be. And it led to some positive plays for the other team. So I was really excited to see Hicks have the game he did. I mean, he led the team with 11 tackles, had a sack, got to the quarterback, defended passes as well. I mean, he had an all-around great game, and I think that's a big, big, big plus for the Eagles if he can start playing like that more consistently. And if it is because he's more comfortable, then that should be the case moving forward.
Grayson's grades, they're all posted at 97.3ESPN.com. A lot of A's in there for an ugly win. Most of those A's are on the defensive side of the ball. No F's this week, but check out the full report card from Scott Grayson at 97.3ESPN.com. And, of course, Scott, Eagles Cowboys next week. I'm sure right after that game there was probably a little excitement and buzz in that stadium in the air. Any bring on the boys chants as you were heading down to the locker room yesterday?
I think the guys were soaking up that one. There wasn't too much talk about it. However, it was funny towards the end of talking to Brandon Graham. Somebody mentioned that. They're like, you got this one in the pocket, and now it's Dallas next week. He's like, yeah, man, let's bring on those Cowboys. I think these guys, look, they got a huge win. They're rolling right now again. The locker room felt like it did after the first 3 wins. They know who's up next. They understand the importance of it within the division, and I think they want every bit of Dallas as much as they can get. Now, the one concern is this team has not done well on the road. We'll have to see how they do traveling to Big D.
Sports Bash Live here on a Monday. Grayson's Grades, 97.3 ESPN.com. Thanks, Scott.
All right, thanks a lot, Mike.